Welcome back, everybody. Today we're discussing Watchmen, Season 1, Episode 5, Little Fear of Lightning. The episode title is named after the quote, "If there were no thunder, men would have little fear of lightning," meaning people are often afraid of the wrong thing. It's not the big scary boom that we should fear, but the unwarning strike of lightning. The episode begins with a radio, changing frequency and ending with the doomsday clock standing 1 minute till midnight, meaning plainly that doomsday is right around the corner. But in the sense of the title card, perhaps this day is just the thunder, and we have yet to see the lightning. We see Veidt leaving the bus with a religious group, the goal entering the Whore's Den, that is the fun carnival in New Jersey, and convincing people to convert before God moves that little hand to midnight. The group are Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Watchtower handout is a real monthly magazine that still runs to this day. Veidt has a tremendous amount of doubt in this scene. He opens his eyes during prayer. He gets talked to by the lead brainwasher, which means that he's probably been talked to before. And finally, he falls victim to the succubus undressing him. This same uncertainty returns at the very end of the episode when again he's put in a position that challenges his faith in what he knows, or should I say, what he thinks he knows. The magazine this person is reading is the Veidt Method, a fitness/mental health metropolitan mail kind of thing made by Ozymandias himself. The top-knot-wearing goons are a callback from the comic series, a gang called the Cadies. The monologue in the mirror can also be seen as commentary on the extreme religious groups of the world, and the line later on that he says to his ex-wife about 7 years bad luck points to him putting this event on his shoulders. He's internalized this. It's his fault, as if it was he who asked for this to happen. I will say the acting by this guy was incredible. I could hear the subtleties, the tiny pauses and such that the real actor Tim Nelson does constantly. I loved it. We actually get a shot of the actual squid that dropped on New York in this storyline, which we theorized would need to happen to make the casual viewers really understand what happened in this world and how we got to this point. It's also cool because fans of the comic have been waiting to see this live action version ever since the movie, who ultimately decided against the squid ending entirely. I thought it was really well done, and we immediately transitioned to an out-of-touch commercial trying to get people to move back to the city to show us that all of these years later, without any other event except for, a little bit of rain, people are petrified of another giant squid landing on the city. The commercial is, of course, in vain because Veidt sees that the test subjects don't care or will not move back regardless, but the consumer research group acts as Veidt's cover, though perhaps not the best since he's kind of doing the same thing that he does as a vigilante. I don't know. Next, we come to Agent Blake leading the police force, demanding a search of all churches in the area, which we later learn is all for naught because the background was a set that they created inside an abandoned department store. The camera focuses on both the cactus and looking glass during this conversation, giving us the subtle push that something is up, and of course it turns out that it's bugged. The conversation quickly turns and Blake calls Mirror Guy into her office. Mirror Guy doesn't like this name, but you know what? Blake is a hardened veteran to faux superhero shenanigans and doesn't care what Mirror Guy says. The big takeaways from this scene are reflectitine, which is the material his mask is made out of that someone told the world blocks alien squid from probing your brain, or I don't know, it's like it could block like radio waves or something, but reflectitine, that's what it is. We see that he puts it in all of his hats, and this kind of just speaks to his mental state once again, living in this constant state of fear when we see that he even sleeps with this protective mask on. He gets home and makes beans, which were a favorite of Rorschach. We then see Captain Metropolis getting nailed by Hooded Justice. I've watched this scene a few dozen times strictly for research purposes, and the one thing that I've come to is this scene. Okay, well, no, I have one more. You see, it's all in the details. You really got to get in there nice and deep. Yes, God, I'm on a roll. Some have discussed that this speaks to the hero's obsession with themselves, not wanting to be looked at while doing something that some may not see as masculine. I think that the scene does provide commentary for the environment, to which I don't care to analyze. I think it's obvious. Honestly, it's probably just a funny scene that was made to make Veidt feel really uncomfortable at how the red-blooded males of Oklahoma look at people that wear masks. And maybe this will actually turn out to be a twist. Like whoever is funding American Hero Story is doing this to put heroes in a poor light. The alarm goes off. possible misfire, but also probably not, because he's done this drill 500 times, and the fact that the episode ends with people coming to attack him and he doesn't have this alarm system installed seems too coincidental for me. Because we also learn later on that Veidt was set up or manipulated, and it wouldn't be too strange if that manipulation started now or even before this episode. Side note, we can see on the wall here that Veidt has a certification in extraterrestrial squid science, which just adds to the fuel to the fire that is the despair when he realizes how much of his life has been wasted fearing this hoax. He spends the night in the shelter and goes to sleep looking at bunk beds, showing his loneliness and how crippling this is for him. It's ruined relationships to the point where kiddos of his own that would utilize these beds will never rest in them. I honestly feel so bad for him. No one deserves this, but what an origin story. I can't wait to see what this leads to. Next, we come to the pet cloning store, which last episode I said that we would see a hybrid pet store. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to count this as a win or not. It's a cool concept. And if you're unaware, we can actually do this right now. Like, not science fiction, we can clone animals currently. Perhaps not as quickly or to the same degree of fidelity, but pets can be cloned, and this spawns an entire debate on the ethics of the practice. It's pretty fascinating stuff and kind of acts as a microcosm of, well, if it's okay to do this, then, the world may accept that it's okay to clone humans in not so long. But again, I'll leave it up to you. What are your thoughts on the matter? We learn who Cynthia is, who immediately turns this little fluffy boy into ashes. So naturally, I hope that she dies at some point. The pills turn out to be nostalgia, called it. We learn that they have been outlawed, but also that these were popular at one point to the mass market. We also learn specifically that they are memories in pill form, meaning a single person's targeted memories. From Peteypedia, we also get the information sheet shown here, showing the manufacturer is true, but perhaps more importantly, the list of possible side effects for the next episode. I think based on the trailer we have, some irregular erections and screaming are what we have to look forward to. Link to this document is in the description below. Give it a look. It's funny if nothing else. We next come to the support group that he leads for extra-dimensional anxiety. One of the members brings up this idea of genetic trauma. In our world, it's called epigenetic. And in this context, it's the idea that something could be so bad that happens to your parents or maybe your grandparents that you inherit some of the side effects, if not the fear of the event itself. Now, it's interesting because he doesn't say that it's a theory. He's stating that it's in this world. It exists. I think that we're hearing this because it's a foreshadow of the nostalgia stuff being weaponized, as I theoried in the previous episode. Because consider this. Veidt survived the psychic trauma from the squid attack, and an inexplicable number of them that were closer to the epicenter of the event did as well. So perhaps these are the strong-minded people that they want in the new world. This trauma being either the delimiting factor about, how strong someone is mentally, or perhaps that they need to be eliminated because they still have trauma. Perhaps it's the idea of working through this trauma that is also the key on who lives and who dies, because Bian is witnessing those tragic events, scared, fearful, but ultimately working through it, just as these people are. Or more specifically, Veidt, who ultimately is the only one that we've heard testimony from, was affected directly from this squid attack. We also know Angela downs all of the pills at once, taking the full force of this mental strain, and I don't think that she's going to die, so perhaps this will allow her to survive the attack later on. I don't know, maybe I'm too far down this specific theory branch or have a confirmation bias because I believe that ultimately that's what's going to happen. But yeah, I think that there's just something really profound about, the idea that humanity 2.0 are the ones who can appreciate what has happened in the past and work through it, ultimately bettering themselves as people. And I think that maybe that's like the ultimate weapon, because it kind of sounds like a real progressive thing to say, which the showrunner is, but also very wicked in the sense that like you're killing massive people who just because they haven't had that trauma, are somehow lesser. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts? When Renee enters the room, Veidt asks if she is a friend of Nemo, which is a reference to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Captain Nemo, which is again where we get the title of this episode. Also, it's something that people say in Alcoholics Anonymous for people in recovery, asking if they are a friend of Bill, because of the founder, Bill Wilson. It's a polite way of saying, are you an AA, instead of outright asking somebody. Here, it's exactly the same. We also get this clip of Veidt acknowledging that the mass murder was for the betterment of humanity, because without it, complete nuclear holocaust would have happened. They exit and proceed to small talk. Renee says that she won't be back Tuesday, which I think hints at the later reveal that this was all set up, but also part of me thinks that it means more, like they'll all be dead, or she will be gone, perhaps using that teleportation device to warp out of here, in fact. We do get some nice scenes with Veidt and Renee, who does some beautiful social engineering when you consider that they even picked a blonde because of his affinity for his ex-wife, who still hangs in his home. It's also interesting that she is testing Wade's lie detector skills during their brief chat, possibly why they take him later on, because he actually has an ability that most people don't. I do believe that Renee is being genuine in these scenes. Later, when she assures Veidt that she's a radiologist with, her face once again revealed, shows that she's not just manipulating him. She wants him to see the truth, wants to see her. They leave the bar, we learn cigarettes are outlawed, and finally the lettuce truck arrives. He takes the bait and follows them to an abandoned department store and does what every idiot hero does, runs in without backup. Before he does, however, we get a shot of a case of something with the Trieu logo on the side. Now, I think because of Senator Keene's reveal, I don't think the 7K and Trieu are working together, meaning this is probably stolen. This because Keene didn't want Crawford dead and Will was the one who killed him and Will is aligned with Trieu. I don't know. Something tells me that they're not working together, though. It could all be just a 3D chess game and even Keene is being manipulated. But yeah, the structure here makes me believe that they are their own entity. Though, again, Trieu has $1 trillion and seemingly knowledge of what will come next. Who is to say she isn't letting this happen because of an Ozymandias level plan that she put in place X amount of years ago herself? It could also just be a part of Veidt's plan that has yet to be revealed. The basketball teleports into the room and we get a remark about the location and degree of the projectile. They are calibrating the machine for an unknown reason, but the purpose is undoubtedly to get a better understanding of the trajectory of this machine so that they can pinpoint an exact location for teleporting to. They take him to a screening of Ozymandias Matrix Reloaded. This is a huge foreshadowing for the simulation theory. Honestly, this may be the biggest foreshadowing that Trieu has made 1,000 Veidt clones and has had them work on a project in, some kind of medium until this Millennium Clock / Humanity 2.0 plan was created. Which makes me also want to explore the idea that what if there is 1,000 of these simulations and 1,000 of these encounters of Adrian Veidt trying to do something in space or working on some project. And when he refers to these clones and their creator abandoning them, he's actually referring to the original Ozymandias himself. The reveal with Keene was excellent. It also shows that Keene didn't do the White Knight, that, he was kind of an afterthought brought in to take care of it, to which you also have to wonder who's bringing him in and what kind of form that he was on that they believe that he was qualified to somehow run this group. I pat myself on the back a little bit here because I got so much hate for saying that the 7th Cavalry weren't two-dimensional racist assholes. They're a group with a purpose, and maybe they also have some racist people, but they know the truth of the squid attack and need to do something to let the world know what is really happening. In turn, a case could be made that the ends justify the means and that they are the real good guys in the show where good and bad doesn't exist and the morally gray compass of Rorschach defines everything. So yeah, I'll leave it up to you where you want to classify these people, and ultimately I have to add this disclaimer as well. I'm not supporting racism. If you're racist, don't watch me and kill your but if we're making the claim that these are not strictly evil people that are trying to make the world aware of what happened and the manipulation of the masses, what better way to do so than to get Ozymandias himself? And what better way to do it than with a teleporter? Senator Keene entitles Veidt to what happened in exchange for getting Angela on the hook for what happened to Judd. During the video, Ozymandias admits that it was he who dropped the squid, and the goal being firstly to save the world, but breaking news, his plan didn't stop there, because he also wanted to get Robert Redford to be president in 1993. We also get confirmation that the regular Squidfall is Veidt's doing, keeping the world in fear ever so slightly to keep the peace alive. Redford was Veidt's plant, but more importantly, he openly admits that his plan is creating humanity 2.0. He wants that utopic world, or in his words,
I envision a stronger, loving world, committed to caring for the weak, reversing environmental ruin, and cultivating true equality.
The final nail in the inevitable coffin that links him and Trieu in terms of a weaponized nostalgia theory, because who better to be left alive than the people who can understand trauma and work past it? Those people that have understood the dangers of the world and how cruel it can be and still work for their perceived good in it. While I openly admit at this point that I am stuck on this theory, perhaps the bigger picture is that this just once again links Trieu and Veidt. You know, as she builds the wonders of the new world, he aspires to bring it into fruition with this master plan that he's worked on for years. We come to Rocket Man Veidt and his love for the outlandish, perfectly detailed in his costume. He catapults into the air past the skybox projection and lands on a moon. Now, I think it's safe to say that most of us thought that he was on Mars, but I'm more inclined to believe that this is actually Europa, as pointed out by Z the Day on Reddit, who first made me aware of this with this awesome picture here. He takes the time to spell out "Save Me, D." He's likely trying to get this message to Dr. Manhattan, or perhaps Dan, which is the first name of Night Owl. He's extremely smart, capable of crafting great inventions that could potentially save him. And one has to wonder if this teleporter isn't a part of that plan, since we know that he's currently in federal prison. I think that the involvement with Keen and his connections perhaps were in store for more than just talk of the Owl Guy. I've zoomed into every pixel of this thing. No marks on it at all show who this belongs to, but I will say the only other satellites that we've seen are the one that showed Dr. Manhattan in the present tearing down this building on Mars, and an implied satellite from Trieu to get the phony messages to Dr. Manhattan. Veidt gets pulled back and the game warden arrests him. I'm not sure what that means or what they could possibly do to him, but if the idea that this is a cloned version of Veidt is true, then perhaps they'll just replace him with a Veidt, a new Veidt, that would be more compliant to the workspace. Finally, we come back to Wade once again. He's been returned to his day-to-day, able to finally understand the scope of his tragic life and the manipulation that has haunted him, and maybe more so why he should help these people get the word out. Angela gets caught with the cactus trick and downs as much nostalgia as she can swallow. Again, next episode is going to be wild based on the things that it can do to you. Wade gets home, leaving his hat behind and throwing the new EDS system in the trash. The reason we see him go back and pick it up is that he just doesn't know what is and what isn't true anymore. He's lost faith in his understanding of the world and is somehow that little boy again, being manipulated by a church that would have him believe that he is somehow at fault for being stripped naked all of those years ago. But he continues forward, unsure of anything. The final scene is a car showing up and 4 members of the 7K hopping out with guns. Now, this would be a good ending to the character. We've seen him and learned his entire story at this point. Kind of speaks to how storytellers do this, show the character, remind of why you like them, and then kill them to dramatic effect. But something else tells me that he is perfectly fine. I think he kills maybe all but one and then gets taken back to the portal because, I feel like they're going to do human testing at first, and maybe this is time for human trials to start before they all just march into the unknown. It does feel off in light of him being a good ally to have. I don't know. I mean, he did what they wanted, so he's on their side now. Ultimately, what do you think happens to Mirror Man here? If you enjoyed this, please be sure to subscribe. We're trying to hit 35,000 subscribers before the end of the season, and your help with that would be amazing. Big shout out to everyone on Patreon, including this month's highest tier donors, Chris Cole, Robert Holtz, and Micheal Linck. You guys are the bee's knees and make this entire process so much easier. Knowing that regardless of Warner Brothers claiming literally every single video, that you guys support the process. And thank you. Much love, everybody. And I can't wait to talk to you all again soon.